I often work the registration line at my own events. They're sitting ducks, waiting to register. And I can't tell you how many people write me and say how great to meet the guest speaker before I even registered for the event. So you can use this trick at your own events, and I know you all have open houses and that sort of thing. I want to talk to you about something called NLP right now. I need a volunteer. Sir, would you help me? Come on up. This is a fascinating part of the program. I think you're going to enjoy it very much. How are you, sir? Michael Caruso?
Sam Hannah.
Is it Sam with an S?
Yes, it is.
Of course it is. Sam, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to meet people and something called NLP. Do you know the NLP? You know what that is?
No, I don't.
A lot of people don't. NLP stands for neurolinguistic programming. If you're taking notes, don't worry about the spelling. This is called body language, everybody. And I want to show you some body language positions that are both helpful and not so helpful when you're meeting people. Now, Sam has been adjusting to being in front of the room, in front of the light for the camera, and in front of me for the last few seconds. Initially, he was standing differently than he is right now. Do you remember how you were standing? Yes, he had his hands in his pockets. Very common. Would you turn around and show everybody, Sam, what this looks like? Very common for a gentleman to stand with his hands in his pockets, often accompanied by motion and sound. Do it with me, Sam. You could tell people you're confident in the front of the room, but if you're doing this with your hands, you're not confident. And do people believe what you say or what you do? They believe what you do every time. So you need to make sure you practice congruency, which is you say what you do. If you say you're confident, hands come out of the pockets. Excellent. The second body position is the one that Sam has just adopted. If you turn and show everyone, thank you, Vanna. And if you turn this way, Sam is demonstrating something called the this is called the fig leaf. The fig leaf. And because it's a bit of a cover-up, if you will. It's a passive body language position. If you were trying to sell someone something, you might not stand this way. Another passive position, Sam, is hands behind the back like this. This is called parade rest. Please show everyone, Sam, what this looks like. Very nice. The parade rest, often with both hands. I guess you could do it with one. Interesting variation. How about this one, Sam? We see this from the ladies a lot. Now, ladies don't have pockets. What do ladies do with their arms that harms them with their body language? Yeah, ladies cross their arms. Sam, like this. Show everybody if you would. Ladies walk around like this. Ladies walk into rooms with their arms crossed, sending what signal? Could mean many things. It could mean that they're insecure. It could mean that they don't get out much. It could mean that they're uncomfortable. Ladies, in their defense, they'll say, no, it doesn't mean any of those things. I'm cold. Well, ladies, there's a new invention out. It's called the sweater. And if you wear a sweater, you won't be cold, and then you can uncross your arms and project what's called personal power. Crossing your arms is probably not good at a networking event. I think you'd agree. Sam, we're in the home stretch, brother. Okay, let's go with some natural poses now. The absolute best natural pose. This is going to freak you out, Sam. Any idea? The best natural pose?
I'm comfortable like this.
You have one hand in your pocket. Of course you're comfortable. Take the hand out of your pocket. Hand at your side. Keep your hands at the bottom of your arms, right where they belong, Sam. How does that look, everybody? It looks natural, doesn't it? How does it feel, Sam?
Fine.
Good. Congratulations. You're cured. Sam, before you go, one other thing. The absolute best way to show interest in another person is to slowly move one of your hands to the lower part of your face, like this, Sam. Let's all do it together. Hands at your side. When I say go, move one of your hands to the lower part of your face and say something like, that's interesting. Ready? That's interesting. Stroke the beard, ladies. How about a round of applause for Sam, everybody? So we're into the home stretch. I want to show you now something called the Perfect Handshake. I've been demonstrating this for years. I got to tell you that this came into being, the Perfect Handshake, when I was speaking at an event and I was working the room a little bit. And I met a young man who was about 26 years old. And I always shake everybody's hand, as many hands as I can. And the gentleman stood up and he shook my hand. And his hand fell out of my hand as I was shaking it. He looked away from me. He averted my glance. He had a very loose handshake, and I said to him, I'm asking people about where they've learned to shake hands. Where did you learn how to shake hands? And he said, I learned, this is a true story, I learned from watching television. And that's when I knew I would be putting this into my routine, because so many people actually don't know how to shake hands. There are three types of handshakes. There's the aggressive handshake. That's often called the bone crusher. Raise your hand if you've been there. There's the assertive handshake. That's when somebody grips your hand firmly, you get a good solid connection, you feel good about the person. And there's also the dead fish handshake. That's the one that's so loose, like the gentleman I was just telling you about, where my hand actually fell out of his hand while I was shaking it. Now they all mean something. The aggressive handshake sends a signal that the person is going to intimidate you, grind you down on price, take advantage of you somehow. The assertive handshake says you can trust me, I'm a man of character, I'm a person of goodwill. The passive handshake, the dead fish handshake, suggests that perhaps the person is lacking confidence or maybe insecure. You want to have an assertive handshake, and now I'm going to show you how to do that. Would you stand up, sir? Mark and I are going to demonstrate the perfect handshake. If you'd hold out your hand like this, the most important part of the handshake is this web area between the thumb and the forefinger. And what you want to achieve with people is called the web-to-web handshake, because when you have the web handshake, you'll have a firm, assertive grip, and then of course everything ends quite nicely. Now when I shake hands with men, I often shake hands differently than I do with women. With men, I often shake hands with my right hand. I will clap him on his right shoulder with my left hand. The bigger the dude, the harder I hit him. I don't know why I do this, Mark. It's just a guy thing. You do it too. We just do it. I never, ever hit a woman. In fact, I'm a little slower on the uptake with ladies. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Often a two-handed handshake, always from underneath, never from on top. And by the way, not all women like the two-handed handshake. How about a round of applause for Mark? I'm just about finished, and a good thing too, because I'm hungry. I want to talk to you about how to escape a conversation. It's one of the most common requests and suggestions, questions that I get about this topic. It's uncomfortable sometimes when you're talking to somebody and they're droning a bit, or perhaps they've moved on from the prime part of the conversation. They're good people. It's just time to move on and do what networking is really about, which is visiting with other people. So I'd like to talk about a couple of different variations that you can use that are very effective. One of the things that you can do, of course, is called triangulation, where you're speaking with someone and you say, hey, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. Would you come with me? And you walk them a few feet in this direction, which provides a transition, and you introduce them to someone else and say, will you please excuse me, I need to see someone, and you step away. Now, you might think that's a bad thing to do to the other person, but somebody did it to you. That's how the whole thing started. By the way, the other person might enjoy that person's company immensely. It doesn't mean that they would feel the same way about them that you do. So triangulation is a good technique. A second technique that you can do is facilitate introductions by calling people over if you're talking to someone and saying, hey, I want to introduce you to someone, and you get it done that way. So you're facilitating introductions and acting kind of as a welcome wagon, if you will. I've kind of served in that capacity tonight. I've seen Norman doing that tonight, introducing people and making connections. Finally, honesty is a terrific thing to use in any situation. I'm often in a situation where I'm talking with someone where I say to them, if you'll excuse me, I see lots of other people here who seem more interesting than you. I'm just kidding, I never say that. But you might say something like, if you'll excuse me, I know we have only 15 more minutes to network and I want to meet as many people as possible. I've really enjoyed talking with you. And make sure you nod your head and mean it when you say it. And then you excuse yourself, action shot, and then you excuse yourself from the party. Have you enjoyed my presentation this evening?